Hey, welcome back to Free Mama Radio. This is part 2 of a 2-episode series. So if you have not listened to last week's episode, you're going to want to go check that out before we dive into today's episode, where we're talking about the mindset shifts that have to take place if you're going to become a successful freelancer or business owner. Spoiler, they are not the same ones we were conditioned to believe since we were little. You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers. Last week, one of our listeners wrote in and said, listen up, Lauren, I've got a 1-year-old, I've got a full-time job. I want to start freelancing, but the struggle is real. And I said, I feel you. I've been there. I understand. It's gonna take a little bit of sacrifice early on. It's also gonna take some logistical work to make sure that you are unblocking all of the excuses you have about actually getting started and diving into your business. But this week, I want to really tap into the mindset side of things. So last week's episode was a little more tactical, like here's what you logistically need to make sure you've done if you're working a 9-to-5 job so that you can, feel good about putting yourself out there and going all in your business. Today, we're going to talk about how that's going to require you to think differently than you've probably been thinking your entire life. So what do I mean by that? Well, when we're little, we are home and we have parents, and our parents tell us what to do, and they have more responsibility than us, and we kind of just fall in line. And then we go to school, and you're a student, and you have teachers, and your teachers kind of tell you what to do, and you kind of fall in line, right? Within reason, there's kind of this hierarchy of power, right? Where the parent is the authority, the teacher is the authority, and then, most of us are conditioned to then go find jobs. Nothing wrong with it, but we go and we find a job and we have a manager or a boss, and that is the person with more responsibility, more authority. They're seen with more power, and we're an employee, and yes, you still have responsibility and you have expectations if you would like to collect your paycheck. That's the transaction that takes place when you have a job. But when you decide to start a freelancing business, when you become a business owner, you are raising your hand and saying, I want to take on that responsibility. I want to take on that power as well. And so one of the things that I see showing up inside of our Free Mama community over and over is that people will watch my webinar, or they'll listen to this podcast, or they'll find my book on Amazon, or, stumble on Free Mama TV over on YouTube. And then they'll come over to our Facebook community and say something like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I really want to make money from home. I want to work from home. I've been applying to jobs like crazy, and I just can't find anything. I just don't see how this works. And immediately my first thought is, wow, that's so great. This person seems really motivated, but I think that they're missing the key to what quote unquote this really is. And so I want to be clear, there's a lot of remote job opportunities out there where you can get a job and you can have a boss or a manager, and you will still work remotely from home or from wherever, and they will be the authority, and they will have the power and the responsibility, and they will give you tasks, and you'll complete them, and you'll collect a paycheck. It'll be that same transactional thing. You just physically won't be going to an office. If that's what you're looking for, that is amazing. And thank goodness that we live in the day and age with the internet where these types of remote jobs are available, especially to more women and mothers. I'm really passionate about that, and I think that it's great. But I also want to be really super clear that that is not what I teach people to do in the Free Mama. That's not what quote unquote this is. I am not teaching women to go find remote jobs. I am empowering women to become business owners and service providers and freelancers, leveraging their skills, raising their hand, saying, I want that responsibility and power, because with that responsibility and power, I will eliminate any sort of ceiling on income that I can have. I will control my time. I will be able to manage my family the way that I want to. So it comes with responsibility, no doubt about it, but I would argue that it is incredibly fulfilling, even if it is a little bit terrifying when we get started. So it requires us to really think quite a bit differently than we've been thinking our entire life, where we've kind of had this expectation that other people are going to make things a little bit easier on us by telling us what it is that we need to do. You're going to have to step up and really visualize putting on a new hat. Like when you become a mom, it's like, now I'm a mom and I'm a daughter and I'm a friend and I'm a wife, an artist or a pianist or, a soccer player, whatever these things are that make up who you are, because not any one of us is just one thing. We're a lot of different things. But if you're going to be serious about becoming a free mama and starting your own freelancing business, you're going to have to add a new hat. And that hat is business owner. That hat is boss. That hat is CEO. And it's going to require you to show up differently, just like you have to show up differently when you're wearing any of your other hats. Now, the way that I see this play out the most, other than, going from kind of looking for jobs to looking for clients where it's a mutually beneficial transaction as opposed to just collecting a paycheck, it requires you to think differently in really specific ways. So number one would be the ways that you look for clients. Somebody who has an employee mindset is going to go apply for jobs. They're going to fill out forms. It's much more passive. There's not a whole lot of authority and doing something that is a little more reactive, right? Somebody says, hey, I have a job opening, and then you apply. You're reacting to what they're doing. Now, a boss, a free mama, a business owner doesn't do that. They are proactive. We are proactive. We network. We look for opportunities. We make connections with people. We make sure other people know the value that we offer and that we can provide. Now, this gets easier over time, obviously. Why? Because you'll have more experience. When you're just getting started, I understand that this feels a little like, I'm not really totally sure what Lauren's talking about, but she keeps saying that I need to go provide value. Don't worry. This is why we have this conversation right here. This is why I teach you how to craft a power pitch so that you know how to communicate the value that you provide to somebody. A power pitch is like just an I help statement. I help who do what goal? What do you achieve for your clients, right? What's the thing that you give them? What's the problem that you solve for them? What's the result that you get them? Start to think about that. It's going to evolve over time, but just start somewhere so you know how to communicate what it is that you do so that you can start networking. This also shows up all the time on discovery calls. If you are new to freelancing, I understand that some of this verbiage, it's like, I've never heard of that before. That's totally cool. A discovery call is when two people come together, typically a service provider and a prospective client, and they get on either a phone call, which I loathe because I am a millennial and we don't like talking on the phone, or a Zoom call. Zoom is a video conferencing software that you can get for free to connect with other people. You can also use, chatting inside Facebook. You can use Skype. There's a lot of ways that you can connect with people. Zoom is my particular favorite. When you get on a discovery call, it is just that. It is typically a sales conversation. The word discovery is not by accident. You are discovering if you are a good fit to work together. Now, an employee mindset person is going to show up to a discovery call and it's going to look an awful lot like a job interview. The person who is the prospective client is going to ask you, the employee mindseted person, a bunch of questions and basically interview you, and they are going to decide whether or not you are the right person for them to outsource to. And from the beginning, from that discovery call, I can pretty much guarantee that your working relationship, if they do choose to work with you, is going to feel like that of an employee and a boss. It's not going to feel as mutually beneficial as if you were to show up with a boss or free mama mindset to that discovery call. Now, what does that person do differently? Well, that person, because they see themselves as an authority and a person of power, they're going to show up and they are immediately going to take control of the call. They are going to be the one asking questions. So they, meaning the service provider, you, free mama, whether you are a virtual assistant, copywriter, it doesn't matter, you're going to take control of the call and you're going to ask the prospective client questions. What are their business goals? Where are they currently at? What software do they use? What are they looking to outsource? Have they outsourced before? How much revenue are they currently bringing in their business? And where would they like to be a month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now? You're going to be the person leading the conversation so that you can get the information you need to know if you are the right person to solve their problem. If they're someone that you would like to work with, then the next step would be moving on to either making your offer or creating a proposal. I talk about all of these things. If you're not familiar with my prospect to paid training, I walk you through the 6 steps to signing clients and taking them from prospect to getting you paid. We can link to resources to that in the show notes for this episode. I also have, if discovery calls are something that's new for you and you were wondering how you can show up with more of this boss mindset as opposed to an employee mindset, I have a free checklist that goes through all kinds of questions that you would ask so that you can position yourself as a person of authority on a discovery call. And we will link to that in the show notes as well. That's completely free. Please use it as a guide. Inside of it, it has very specific niches of being a service provider that will kind of guide you and assist you if you are brand new to the types of questions you would want to ask, as well as some of those closing and qualifying questions to make sure that the person is in fact ready to work with you and ready to outsource and pay you as you should be paid. So as you can see, from the beginning stages of networking through the discovery call, and then that discovery call really sets the stage for your working relationship. Is this person going to see you as someone with value and authority, or are they going to treat you like an employee that maybe they should have hired instead of an independent contractor who can work alongside them to help them accomplish their goals? Now, the last thing that I'll say on this topic is just because you have a boss mindset and not an employee mindset doesn't mean that you have permission not to show up and provide an outstanding service for this person. Free mamas know that our motto is that we put a bow on it. We want to exceed the person's expectations, but we want to do this with them knowing and respecting that we are also running a business the same way that they are as our clients. A lot of mutual respect and reciprocity can come from these types of working relationships. People who will encounter you as a boss rather than as an employee are also going to be willing to pay you more because you're going to be positioning yourself as someone who is more confident, someone who is more assertive, and somebody who is able to really get things done. So you can see that maybe you've been showing up as an employee and that's why getting started in your freelancing business has felt a little bit hard. But I want to let you know that that's totally not your fault. We've been conditioned that way since we were little. And so I challenge you to grab a metaphorical hat, place it on your head, and start thinking about yourself as the boss of your freelancing business and ask yourself, what would boss Lauren do in this scenario versus what is employee Lauren doing in this scenario? And how can I show up differently by thinking about myself and the way that I'm running my freelancing business differently as well? I hope that you found so much value from this 2-part series. I know that the transition from working a 9-to-5 to being your own boss can be a scary one. There's a lot of limiting beliefs that show up. There's a lot of things that we have to work to kind of untrain our mind to think so that we can show up in this new and powerful way and take control of our life and our finances. Make sure you go check out freemamaradio.com so you can see all of those free resources I mentioned today. That is Audrey yawning in the back seat. So I think that's a wrap on today's episode, and I can't wait to catch you guys next week for a whole new episode of Free Mama Radio. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.